Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of what I find in the misinformation, disinformation, the concerns around voter fraud are actually just the lack of knowledge. They don't understand how the process works, and so in lack of knowing, sometimes people fill in with their own beliefs, and so a lot of times people present us with a concern that once we walk them through, we're very open in our elections here. We take we offer tours without appointments. Just walk in, say I'd like to tour the election room, and we give a full tour. We always encourage it during election time when there's ballots and the machines running and all of that. But what we find is that most people, it's just that lack of knowledge and understanding of really what happens to a ballot. Um, some of their concerns are alleviated right there in just seeing how we handle them, knowing how many people, that we have a minimum two-person rule whenever ballots are present. The way that the machine, that we use barcodes to validate who you are, but then that is compared against records we actually have in our system. The fact that signature verification is actually a physical thing that happens where we have human eyes putting, viewing and checking against a signature that's on file, or in several cases or lots of cases, they have multiple signatures on file. We have the benefit now of VoteWA. So VoteWA went into effect summer of 2019, and that was the first state managed central voter registration database, and all of our voter records and everything are managed through that. And with the laws that were passed in the state in 2018 and parts of 2019, VoteWA was necessary for that, because we couldn't perform what we need to do now by law if we didn't have this centralized location for that. And it's all about voter management. We can do things with the ballot now that we couldn't do before at a large scale. And so some of the concerns that we get, and in this question, a lot of people are concerned with the idea of duplicate ballots. They don't understand that we can issue you multiple ballots, because in our system, we inactivate whatever ballot is out, whether it's lost in the mail, if you had it and lost it, or whatever the status may be. We can assign you another ballot. So we inactivate your ballot and we send you a new one. Something happens that we send you another one. We've had, in some cases, we've had up to, I think I've heard 8 ballots that have been issued to an individual over the course of a single election. We don't know why you can go online. We think part of it was people weren't understanding how the function worked, and you can do basically you click a button and it just asks for a new ballot. It inactivates one, it sends to the queue that we need to send a new ballot out, and we do that. But so again, with duplicate ballots, what happens is people don't understand how we're managing that. And so one situation was, we had a gentleman come into a vote center. He had a ballot with him, it was filled out, but he asked for a new ballot because he said he had made some mistakes, or he had made some notes on his initial ballot, and he wanted to use that as voting reference material for filling out a new ballot. And so we went into the system, we issued him a new ballot, and he went over to one of the tables, he filled it out, he dropped it into our ballot drop box, in the ballot drop box in the vote center there, and then he went outside and went down the sidewalk to our ballot drop box in the front of the building and dispensed his second ballot, not realizing that we had inactivated that second ballot. So he attempted to vote twice. We caught it, obviously, because the system, when we run the ballot through our sorting machine, the system immediately knew that ballot had been suspended because of barcodes, because of his name, because of the information that the system is holding. And so he was part of our canvas board, where he attempted to vote twice. We contacted him. He denied that he voted twice. He said, "Oh, I thought I was dropping it in a garbage can." And it's like the garbage can labeled drop ballot here, but that was
that garbage can.
Yeah. So it was between him and the prosecutor at that point. It was referred on to the prosecutor. My understanding is that they, on first offense things, they give them, they slap them on the hand, tell them you broke the law. It is an offense that would get you this kind of punishment. Don't do it again. They give a lot of people benefit of the doubt on the first one if they become habitual, which we've never had. If they become habitual, then they will escalate it and actually use the law for how it is. But so we had duplicate ballot guy, but then we also had a person that, and it was really troubling. The person works. They have elections experience, and they had worked in an election environment in another state, and they their duplicate ballot situation was a little bit different in that they moved, and we got their national change of address came in right before ballots were going out, and the ballot was already prepared and ready to go in the mail house that was doing it when we got the change of address. So we inactivated the ballot that was sitting in the mail house, activated a new ballot, and mailed that ballot from our office. But at the same time, because there's a change of address, we have a card that goes out. Anytime there is some change of status in a voter record, we send out a confirmation card. And that confirmation card actually has rules on it that it's not to be forwarded and all of that, and it's supposed to come back to our office. So we sent one ballot through the mail house. We sent another separate ballot through our office. We inactivated the one from the mail house because we couldn't pull it back. It was sitting in literally a room with probably about 10 pallets of ballots all in trays, and there was probably, I don't know, 100 trays in a pallet, and it was a madhouse. We could have never found it. I mean, needle in a haystack type looking. So one ballot to the mail house going to this person, second ballot mailed out of our office, and we then get the card back that tells us that not only did the person move from the address we had on file, they then moved from that address out of state. And so we get this card back that says they've moved out of state. So we immediately inactivate the second ballot, and we inactivate their voter status. So they immediately became an inactive voter, so that no other ballots could be issued to this person. And we needed basically to have some kind of communication with them at that point before they were going to vote. But the person living in a different state now gets two ballots in the mail from us, and they immediately put them on a table, take two pictures, and post it up and say, wow, what's going on here? Washington's issuing me two ballots. And it's like, okay, one, you should have known better. You lived in Washington. We're vote by mail. Two, you're an elections official. You know that there are things, or you're an elections worker. You know there are things and protocols and that we have in place that protect. This was not some kind of mistake that we made. We followed, a very refined process, and only one of those ballots was going to be good. But when she moved out of state, they were both inactivated, and none of the ballots were good. But it started that whole thing, because then those pictures showed up on Facebook. People were commenting, oh wow, this is horrible, this is how these things happen. And it's like, no, it's not. If you know the rest of the story, which is interesting, because I mean, our own Secretary of State here has done a lot of talking over the last year, because we had several people through the last elections where they were getting multiple ballots. So they did a whole effort in talking about the fact that yes, you can get multiple ballots. We talk about it here in our social media, and we answer these questions all the time. But it's just, again, it was one of those things where the person just really didn't. They did some things that I think were irresponsible for somebody that works in the industry. That they know that there are other protocols in place. One of the stories I did share with the other group, was the ballots that we heard a story that there were a whole bunch of ballots in a ditch. It had shown up on Facebook. It had made its rounds. There were no pictures that went with it, but it was this story. So we have a very active public information officer. He stays connected to social media, watches the papers for stories and trends, and this popped up on his radar that there was a report of all of these ballots. So we started investigating it. He tracked down the person. He ultimately found somebody that was aware of the post, that then knew somebody else. And by the time we got to the end, he found the person that made the initial post. And it was one of those stories that just kind of grew. The real story in the end was there were two ballots in a ditch in a neighborhood. The story when it got to us was the mailman didn't like the election and had taken all the ballots for an area and thrown them away in a ditch. And it was, reported to be this stack of ballots. Reality was it was squatters living in a neighborhood that were robbing mailboxes and looking for things of value. Ballots don't have any value. As much as people would like to think they do, with having to be able to replicate signatures, the fact that we can inactivate ballot, all of those different things that we have, in play, a ballot really doesn't have any street value. So the idea of ballot fraud and this widespread theft isn't really a reality. And to confirm that, we partnered, or we requested of our sheriff's office some of their time to do some continual research, and we had them look back at mail theft, reported mail thefts, both outside of election time and then specifically during election time, because we wanted to see if there was any spike or increase in mail theft during the time when ballots were out, because that was one of the stories that we were hearing people saying, oh yeah, when the ballots go out, there's all this mail theft. And so we set out to dispel that or find out if that was a true thing. And what we got back from the sheriff's office was, no, there is no spike. In fact, mail theft was a lot lower than they thought what they were expecting. So, that it kind of made us feel better knowing that, we don't have big problems out there with mail theft and specifically